DC has found their first hit outside the Batman universe in a long while. DC has been very successful in relying on things that circulate around Batman, whether that be the Batman, Joker, Gotham, or even Suicide Squad for that matter. However, Superman finally gave them a spot into the limelight again. Anyways, we're not here for a history lesson. Let's delve into the review of the movie.
1, 2, 3.
To start this off, for the record, I do believe this film is quote unquote better than A Man of Steel, or maybe it was just my experience in watching it too, seeing as the setting for Superman 2025 was with a group of friends. Albeit the environmental aspects, I do think I keep a very open-minded and unbiased review on the film as a whole. Firstly, let's start off with the story. I believe the story was done well for what they were hoping to achieve. A very easygoing story that is accustomed to all ages, with an antagonist that rivals the main character and opposes a reasonable threat. Isn't intricate, nor is there any major plot twist that might confuse the younger audience. However, it still slightly plays with some of the aspects and keeps a pretty educational in a fun and immersive way, which is a neat touch. Something to kindle the interest of the world of science and physics to younger audiences. For that reason, I'd probably toss this a solid 7.5 in that respective category. Next, cinematography. I think they had a well planned out vision for this specific aspect. They were going for a comic book like experience and matching nearly every scene with the color scheme of Superman, that being the navy blue, red, and gold colors. It's a really great touch, but when watching a 2-hour film, it can get dragged a bit. Sometimes it worked really well, and sometimes it just seemed a bit too much. Like when you notice nearly every significant character in the film has blue eyes. It's almost daunting, really. Nonetheless, really cool vision, and I'm sure a high-end experience for some people. I'd say I got the best of both worlds equally when it came to this. I won't knock it, mainly due to them going to the comic book parallelism. I'd give that a 7.5 as well. Going on to characters, I wouldn't say they wasted any characters in this film. That doesn't mean the characters were all great, but they at least served some purpose for the most part, except for Hawk Girl. She was really the only character that, if omitted, it would have changed very little. Also, Supergirl. She was only in for about 30 seconds of the film for us to know that she was some college campus Bob. And that aside, the characters fell into two completely separate parts of the spectrum, which made the film a bit jumbled. They were either gag characters or super serious characters, so picking an emotion throughout the film might be your hardest task. Some characters were just too much of a gag, like a joke that's being repeated over and over and over again. Namely, Crypto. The dog doesn't serve much purpose, and it probably does the most damage to Superman than anyone else. I haven't dabbled in Superman comics as much as Batman, but if that's the explanation for Crypto's behavior, I can't say that encourages me to start investing time into it now. It doesn't help that there's so many variations of gag characters in this one film alone. It's like a horror movie that constantly relies on jump scares to get a kick out of the audience. At the very least, I wouldn't say there were many instances where they forced jokes in situations that just didn't need to be a punchline, like most superhero movies try to do. For that reason, I give this a 5. Next, symbolism. I don't really care for this aspect, or rather, it isn't one I'll catch myself grading regularly, but I'll give credit where credit is due. I think they did well in catching the symbolic interpolation of Superman. In the film, Superman is a man of tall stature, and it is very much evident. There wasn't a single character at Superman's height aside from Lex Luthor, which played a deeper role in the subliminal aspect of what the film was trying to convey and portray to the audience. Had they noticed it, I won't rate this, but I thought it was really cool for the most part. And then we have action or fight scenes and choreography. If it wasn't for the costume, I couldn't tell you this was a Superman film or a very optimistic Batman film. I do believe the fight choreography is really great. Don't get me wrong. Also, the video game direction they took into the fight scenes was a unique and inventive take on orchestrating superhero fights. With that said, there isn't much to tell you this is a Superman film when only taking the fights into account. You can count the amount of times Superman actually uses his powers on one hand. No, literally one hand. He used his powers 5 times the whole film. This isn't taking flight into consideration. There's also several inconsistencies when dealing with his powers or how they go about portraying them. His laser beam eyes are pretty much useless. I understand how they not wanting to get graphic. This would make perfect sense. But the contradiction lies when Lex Luthor blows the store clerk's head off playing Russian roulette questionnaire. But laser beams are just a tickle to opponents. Also, his strength. Apparently he could prevent like 8 large skyscrapers falling in stacks of dominoes from falling on the lady in the car. But he couldn't lift a large beast that was about the size of one of those buildings. Granted, there is mass and angle to take into consideration, but the disproportion is pretty great that I'm not sure it would alter my thesis much. That's a bit of a tangent, but point being, for a comic-like take and a film that was catered to all ages, especially kids, I think we would prefer seeing Superman using his powers, especially if you're going out of your way to show some guy get his head blown off by a purple revolver. It's the least you can do with the 2 hours we've given you. Anyways, I would give this category like a very generous 6. Last major category, theme. This sort of goes back to all my points, but heavily on the third point in characters. Theme and story are different. Story is the event that unfolds. Theme is sort of like the overarching idea and goal you're trying to convey to the viewer. Much like the characters, theme is very similar here. It falls into 2 completely separate spectrums on the grid. This is also another reason why the inconsistency exists, or why picking an emotion is the most trivial aspect of the film. One scene can be Krypto jumping on Superman until Krypto fractures 6 ribs, and the next could be like the Russian roulette questionnaire. That's one aspect of theme that made it a hard watch. I think meeting in the middle would have done right. They clearly failed at that, so they compensated by having every other scene being different moods. That's really just a smaller aspect of the theme in this film. The greater one is the political aspect of this film. This film is very political in all ways. I'm not even against the messages they're trying to convey, but I think the delivery of it is so horrible. It's very force-fed and in your face. Every state. I'm not against the ideals you're pushing, as I, for one, fall into the audience they're trying to advocate for. What really irked me is the motive. I just can't tell how genuine it is. I'm not sure if it was simply to educate kids on how all people are equal and deserve the same things, or it was appeal to the groups in question, or it was taking advantage of the current status of the world to lure people in, etc. It did seem a bit of all of those. The theme seemed like a raging politically involved liberal college student kind of nagging you about a cause. Or, to simplify it, when you ask someone about a religion and they're pushing it on you heavy. They had a great idea and heart in taking that creative direction, but I can't say the unfolding of it was all that great. Ending the theme up with a 6. For the smaller things, like resolve, I'd say was weak. Once again, with the delivery aspect of having good intentions. This time, it was just corny. Screenwriting was horrendous, and Superman looked like he was reading those lines off a teleprompter. I'd give this a 5. Love aspect, they took a more passive-aggressive approach in this, kind of like the sort of toxic girlfriend you get along with and try to make things work. But I'll give it to them. It wasn't nearly as corny as how it was in Spider-Man No Way Home. Still, this is like a 6.5. I'm indifferent about it. Didn't bug me too much, so I can't complain. In terms of it being informative, they did well in this. Didn't leave the audience guessing on things occurring in the film and explain things necessary to the experience of the film. Sort of like how Clark or Superman's glasses work. Although not completely accurate, explaining more intricate matters like black holes. This sits at a solid A for me. Saved me the trouble of having to explain some of this stuff to my friends. When it comes to viewing experience, I say this is a film best enjoyed in a group, most suitably of varying ages. Same age is fine too, but I would assume varying age groups, like a family, would be the peak viewing experience you can get out of this. As for replay value, there's really no hope for it in that category for me, unless, once again, you have a family. But even then, it wouldn't be the first to cross my mind, or even the 20th, but I believe in that setting it works. I'd give its replay ability a solid 5. Wouldn't crack per choice, but if it comes on, I won't be bothered a lot. In totality, I would say this film is the epitome of a product of its time, with good intentions, but that's exactly what it is. It took all the current worldly adult problems and turned it into a lunchable for kids to consume. Maybe some kid in the near future will come back to this and see how political it really was. As for me, I don't see myself watching it again, but I won't knock the film. My overall rating to the Superman 2025 film is a 6 out of 10, which is a bit better than I had expected going into the film. You guys, let me know what your thoughts on the Superman 2025 film are down below. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to like, comment, share, and subscription would be nice. Take care.